Welcome to Harris Innovation Consulting Group, where we help teachers take ownership over their own learning. Today, we're going to talk about how to create a reading skills interactive notebook. Kudos to Upper Grades Are Awesome. I got some really cool folds from her blog. So thanks so much. I'll go ahead and put the link in my description. So let's get started. In this video, we'll talk about 3 easy steps on how to create a reading skills interactive notebook. The first step is to create a table of contents. In this table of contents, you'll choose 10 different reading skills, and in those reading skills, you will flesh it out over time. Depending on what grade, your reading skills would change, and sometimes they build upon each other, but make it specific to your particular grade. Step 2. In step 2, you will have a section in which students are able to create their own goals. This is important to help students to monitor their own learning, and it will motivate them and help them to take ownership over the process of mastering different skills. And the last step, step 3, is how to organize the chapter. It's important that you're consistent and that you're including student tools in there so that students understand they can use it as a reference in order to help them to understand a particular skill best. On my Facebook page, I've had a lot of posts on different ways to create inserts for your interactive notebook. In this video, we'll use 4 different folds that we can put together all in one notebook. So now we'll get started. The 4 folds we'll talk about today will be first the shutter fold, which we will use to gather our vocabulary from the text. The next one will be a petal book, and this one will be to create some of the answers to our comprehension questions. The next will be a notebook pocket to pull in our key terms from the particular skill, and lastly, we'll create a web. First, you will need a regular 8.5 by 11 paper, and so all I did was take it and fold it down, and once you fold it down, you cut off the excess to create a perfect square, as such. So what you'll have is a perfect square. Now we will create a shutter fold, and with the shutter fold, this is what you'll use to gather your students or have the students create their vocabulary. And I'll show you, it's just a 3-part type of fold. All I did was just fold it 3 ways. And the reason we made a perfect square is with comprehension notebooks, they're a little bit smaller than the average notebook, so this will allow everything to fit in perfectly. So once you have your 3 folds, then you will begin to cut slits in for each of the vocabulary words. Okay, so after you have your folds, you've cut out, all I did was just cut slits in one side and then cut slits in the other side, and you'll see how you can customize each section for your students' interactive notebooks. So this one would be considered the shutter fold, and this is used to gather the students' vocabulary. In the notebook, what we did was we allowed one side to be the actual word, the middle would be the definition, and then the last piece would be the picture of the word. And these words are words that come from the text. The next one we'll create right now would be a petal book. So with the petal book, we'll start from a perfect square as we did before. And this one you will take and you have your perfect square, then you're going to fold down the sides. So once you fold down the sides, you'll see a tip on each corner, and then you will cut. But when you cut, you're going to cut the actual tip out of the paper, out of the corner. So it will leave that corner cut out. So you'll go ahead and do that for each one. So what you'll have, looks kind of funny, doesn't it? So what you'll have would be, make sure that your corners are perfect, but you'll have somewhat of a cross. But no worries, even if it's lopsided, you're just simply going to fold in each of the corners, and it will be like a petal. And then when you open it up, you'll see the 4 pieces as such. So this one is the Petal Book, and it's used for the comprehension section of our notebooks. The next fold we'll talk about is considered a notebook pocket. So we'll start off with our square as such, but this time we'll keep the triangle up with the point side upwards. You'll take one corner and fold it up here. And then you'll take the other corner and fold it there. So now you have a pocket. You can fold this down as such. And so you've created a pocket to hold any key terms that you have. For our notebook, we will use this to gather key terms for the particular skill, and it will change based on the skill. And last, we have a web, and this web we will use for our writing. So we start off again with our perfect square. Then we're going to fold it hot dog, and then we are going to fold it hamburger. And so the part where all of the sides meet, you're going to make a pretty big triangle. We'll give the students a lot of writing space, so we'll create a pretty big triangle. And when you open it, now you have created a web for your students, and you can have them outline the triangle in the middle. And this will be used for our writing web. In the middle will be our main idea and our topic sentence, and there'll be a key detail, key detail, key detail, and the conclusion. This will be the web that they'll use for their writing section in their interactive notebook. Now let me show you how all of these different folds tie together to make one reading skills notebook. Okay, step one, creating a table of contents. In the example that I have, when you're creating a table of contents, you'll see three different sections. The first section is tab, in which you'll just customize the tabs to fit the sections that you're going to put in your interactive notebook on the table of contents. And then the middle would be table of contents, and last you will place the page numbers so that students can flip through those pages. Don't forget to have students go through each page and number them. I usually start off with 30 to 40 and then have them add on as needed, because this can sometimes be a very tedious task. So in that section, you have the table of contents, and if you notice, I alternated colors so that it's easier for students to kind of find the sections as needed. So the first tab deals with the student goals, and the second tab, we go into the skills. If you notice, the pattern is the same. So you have main idea, but under the main idea tab, you would have key terms, vocabulary, comprehension, and writing. The same will go for text features, and then it would continue on for the other skills that I would highlight. So now let's look at the first tab, which would be the student goals. On the student goals, you see it's very colorful, allow the students to kind of decorate and take ownership and have some fun with that page. You see with this student, the goal for their fluency would be to reach 130 words per minute. As they're reading each week, they would monitor their fluency by reading a passage, timing it at 1 minute, and as they grow, they would go ahead and color it in. And then you have the Lexile. The Lexile is the reading level, and that would be something that they would be assessed on in the fall, in the winter, as well as the spring. So the students would have a Lexile goal, and then each time they are assessed, they'll go ahead and place that in there, and you see that target on the side. The target would be actually what their particular reading or their Lexile goal is. It is customized based on the particular grade. So notice at the top corner of the next section, which would be key terms. In that top corner, you see a tab that I created that I put on the side. Notice that I'm using tape because unlike glue, it doesn't take a while to dry. On this first section where you have the key terms, we use the notebook pocket. And in there you see different flashcards. And in these flashcards, there are key terms that deal with that particular skill. So once the student takes it out, they can match the definition with the word. Now, these key terms just deal with the skill. So with main idea, you'll see main idea, you'll see key details and the definitions, and the students can match them as they have extra time in their centers. So in the next section, you have the vocabulary, but I do want to make mention of the text. So on that text, you see that the paragraphs are numbered, and we'll talk a little bit more about why they're numbered later on in the video. So you have the vocabulary section. In this vocabulary section, this would be the shutterfold. The shutterfold, when you open it up, you'll see the word, then you'll see the definition of the word, and then you'll see a picture. The last two parts of the shutterfold are left blank to allow for students to add additional words that they may struggle with as they're reading the text, and so this allows for 2 more of those words. Next, we go on to the comprehension section. In this section, we use a Petal Book fold. This Petal Book fold, the students would use the Petal Book fold to answer the comprehension section, the questions on the side. And so with that, they would put their answers in here. Remember, I said earlier that the paragraphs were numbered, and in those paragraphs being numbered, the students can refer back to the text and they can indicate here where they found that particular answer. So remember to always reinforce the idea that students should go back into the text to find their answer. Then we go on to the last section, which would be the writing. And this was the web fold that we did. With the web fold, you see here that the students in the middle, they would write the main idea and then the topic sentence. And on the side, you see a key detail, another key detail, a key detail, and lastly would be the conclusion. So when the students begin to write, they have a great foundation. Their brainstorms, their ideas are already out on this particular web, and then they begin to write. And as they're writing, notice that the student skip lines so that when I, as a teacher, I go back and give this student different feedback, it's easier for them to see the feedback that they need. And they can use additional pages to continue on and write their revisions or to write their published copy right within the text. So remember the 3 steps in creating a reading skills interactive notebook. First being just to create a table of content. The next one would be to include in student particular goals. And then the last one is organizing your notebook, making sure that each chapter is consistent and there are student tools in there so that they see the importance of going back and using as a reference. So that's all for now. Thank you so much for joining Harris Innovation Consulting Group, where we help teachers to take ownership over their learning. You can follow us on Facebook at Harris Innovation Consulting. We're also on Twitter at Dr. T. Harris, on Instagram at Harris Innovation CG. Don't forget, you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Harris Innovation CG. And lastly, if you would like to join our mailing list, you can visit us at www.harrisinnovationconsulting.com. Happy teaching!